Hello and welcome to the Kennel Connection training video on the Lists section. In this video, we'll be going over the setup options in the Lists section of Kennel Connection. To get to the Lists section, we're going to go to the File tab, and then in the Setup section, we're going to select Lists. One thing to keep in mind when you're in the List section is that the tabs will move based upon which line you select a tab from. Whenever you select a tab, it will move the whole line of those tabs to the front. When you first open up the List section, Breeds is going to be the first tab selected. The Breeds section is where all of the breeds are entered for your pets. Kennel Connection comes with a number of default breeds, but you can add or modify or delete any breeds that you like. To add a new breed, you'll click the New Breed button and then enter the information for that breed and click Save. To modify breeds, select the breed on the left, modify any information desired, and click Save. To delete a breed, select the breed you want to delete and click Delete Breed. Besides the breed name and breed description, we have the option to set rates for breeds in Kennel Connection. The boarding module and the groom module both have options to set rates based on the breed of the pet. In order for these rates to apply, you'll need to set the rate here in the breed section, and the pet will have to have that breed entered on the pet card. Items such as breeds and colors, which are specific for pets, will be selected on the pet card. When entering items in fields that have the drop-down menu to select items from the List section, you will sometimes have the option to type a letter in to jump to that item on the list. Then you can open the list and select an item, or if the item you need comes up with the typed letter, you can tab over to save it and move on to the next item. You also have the option to type in a new item, and if I tab over now, Kennel Connection will recognize that this breed does not currently exist in the database in the List section and will ask if I would like to add it to the List section. If I say yes, this will become a new breed in the List section and you'll be able to select it from the drop-down menu. If I say no, the breed will remain on the pet card but will not be added to the List section. As you can see, if I say yes, a window opens allowing me to set up the options for that item in the List section. Because of this ability to enter items to the List section, you may want to avoid allowing people to type items in fully and encourage them to select it from the drop-down menu. Otherwise, you might end up with several different spellings of the same pet breed or other items. If you wish to avoid employees typing names into the breed section or color section or other areas where you can save an item to the List section, you can do so by setting up IDs and passwords in Kennel Connection, and then under Access Rights, removing the ability to modify the List section. By removing the List Setup option, any employee logged into Kennel Connection that does not have that access right will not be able to type in a name into the field, but will have to select it from the drop-down menu. This will go for the breed drop-down, the color drop-down, and the vet drop-down. Back in the List section, the next tab is Colors. Just like the breeds color, we have several options here that come with the program. You can add, modify, or delete these as desired. Next, we have payment methods. These are the payment methods you select on the receipt screen when taking payment in Kennel Connection. Cash and check are already defaults in the system. You do not have to add them to the payment methods area. When entering payment methods, you also have the option to include a discount rate or a surcharge rate for those items. Kennel Connection will not calculate these into your payments. This is merely a section where that information can be entered for reference. And the checkbox indicating whether it's a credit card will come into play when you are processing credit cards through Kennel Connection. Next, we have daycare rooms. Under this tab, we can set up rooms or types, and we'll show you how to change that in just a moment, for your daycare module. To create new daycare rooms, you'll click the New Daycare Room button and enter the information. We have the name of the daycare room or type, the description. We have for daycare rooms an hourly rate, the max charge, and a maximum occupancy. When the daycare room reaches that occupancy listed here, you will receive a prompt when adding additional pets indicating that you have reached the maximum for that room. The system will not prevent you from adding more pets, but it will prompt you that you are exceeding your maximum occupancy listed. We can also choose whether the default option for these rooms is to use a package day, to not use a package day, or to not charge for that visit. And we can also set multi-pet rates for multiple pets from the same family staying in the same room. And we can set up those discount rates at a dollar amount or a percentage. To change daycare rooms to daycare types, you'll want to go into the System Options section under the Daycare tab and either check or uncheck Daycare has rooms. In this case, I'm going to uncheck Daycare has rooms, click Apply and OK, and when we go back into the list section, we now have daycare types. The only difference you'll really see here is that daycare types do not have a maximum occupancy option. Next, we have the three services: exercises, feedings, and medications. Here's where we can enter these services into the list section to apply them to reservations in the system. Once again, to add new items, you'll click the New button. We have the Save option, and we can delete an exercise. For exercises, we'll enter the exercise name, the description. If we're charging for that service, we'll enter the rate. We can choose to add this item to report cards. We can add this item to the touchscreen list. This is specific for exercises. You can add a limited number of exercises to your touchscreen list for customers checking pets in through the touchscreen. And we have an option for not invoiceable. So if we have a service that we schedule, but we don't bill for the customer, not invoiceable will still have it appear on the reservation and in schedule reports printed for that service, but that service will not appear on the final invoice. We have the same settings for feedings, where we can set the rate and choose whether or not this item is invoiceable. And the same thing for medications. If we go to a reservation or a pet card and go to the services section, you can set Kennel Connection up for the option to add items automatically by typing them into the system. So for example, if I want to add a new item to the feedings list, all I have to do is enter that new item, and then when I tab over, the item is now saved and in the list section. That way we can add new services on the fly when creating a reservation or entering pet information without having to exit out and go into the list section. Once again, this can pose a problem if you have people typing items in without checking if they're on the drop-down list. You can end up with multiple items in the list section. If that's a concern, you can turn off this option by going into System Options, and then under the Global tab, uncheck the box that says Enable Editable Service Grids on Bookings. If we select that option and then reopen the pet card, you'll now see that we cannot type into the section for the feeding service, medication, or exercise, but instead have to click the Add button and select the item from a drop-down and enter the information this way. Next in the list section, we have notices. These are notices that you can set up for email reminders in Kennel Connection. Certain reminders have the option to choose a preset notice to add to the email reminder. Those notices are set up here. You have a total of 5 options, each with 250 characters maximum. Next, we have the Runs tab, and we're going to look at this in conjunction with the Run Sizes tab. Runs can be set up for boarding, daycare, grooming, or training in Kennel Connection. You'll create your runs and then attach them to a run size. So the first thing you'll want to do if you're setting up Kennel Connection for the first time is go to your run sizes first and create your run sizes. Kennel Connection comes with a default large, medium, and small, but again, you can add, modify, or delete those to your liking. For each run size, we're going to enter the name of the run size, the rate, the type of pet, and if there are multi-pet rates for multiple pets booked in the same run. Once you've set up your run size, you'll want to set up your runs. So for each run you create, you'll want to enter a run number. Keep in mind that run numbers do not have to be actual numbers. That is just an industry term we use. You can enter them as names or anything else. And if you are entering numbers, and you're entering numbers into 2, 3, or 4 digits, in order to have them show correctly in numerical order, you'll want to enter a 0 before them if it's double digits, 2 zeros if they're triple digits. So in this case, I have runs 01, 02, 03, 07. If I want to make sure that 4 enters them properly, I'll have to enter 04. And then we're doing that because eventually I'm going to get into 10, 11, or 12. And so we want all of our numbers to be 2 digits in length. Select the run size you're attaching this run to. And when you do this, the rate for the run size will automatically apply to that run. We can modify it if this run is going to have a different rate, but initially it'll automatically default to that run size rate. Then you'll want to choose which modules the run is designed for. This will affect where that run shows is available. And for example, if I'm using this run just for boarding, and I'm using runs for daycare, if I go into the daycare schedule and try to select a run, this run will not show as available. If I have it marked for both boarding and daycare, that means I can select it for either of these, but once it's selected for one, it will not show as available for the other. This gives you the option to either create entire run sets just for one module, or share them between 2 modules or more. Once you finish entering your information, click Save to save the run. Once you have your runs set up in the system and you're creating reservations, if you decide you want to change your rates, you do have the option to adjust rates for bookings already created in the system by selecting Adjust Booking Rates. if I want to change the rate for this run, and I want it to include reservations already on the schedule for this day going forward, I can select Adjust Booking Rates, change the rate, and when I click Save, we'll get a prompt that's going to describe what's happening, that we're changing the rate from 250 to 100 and asking if we want to adjust the rate on bookings already created. Saying yes, we'll go to another prompt. This is going to remind us that this will only change the rate to 100 or to the new rate on reservations that are currently on the old rate, which in this case is 250. So any reservations in this run that aren't currently at the old rate will not be changed to the new rate. And of course, it is going to remind us once again, because this is going to change all rates going forward in the system. We want to make sure you don't do this without being aware of the ramifications. Another option in the Runs tab is the Show Runs Marked as Deleted. Any runs that are deleted in the system will show in red in the runs marked as deleted. We have deleted the run from the list section, but it still exists in the database. If you find suddenly that on your boarding schedule you are seeing reservations showing twice on the schedule, the reason for this would be that the system is seeing a deleted run of the exact same name. To fix that, you will go into the Runs tab of the list section, check Show Runs Marked as Deleted, select that run, and delete that run again to remove it entirely from the database. The other reason we have this option is if we do delete a run, but then later want to reinstate that run, we can simply go to Show Runs Marked as Deleted, choose the run, and select Undelete Run. And that will add it back to the runs in the program. Having gone over runs and run sizes, we're now going to go to sources. This is an area where we can enter sources for referrals to the facility, and this can be anything you want to enter in the system: individual customers, organizations, advertising venues. These can be added here in the list section. This is also another item that can be added in the client section, and it works just the way we saw the breeds and colors working on the pet card. If an item is typed into the sources section on the client card and it doesn't exist in the list section, Kennel Connection will prompt you if you want to save it to the sources section. Next, we have other services. These are other services besides exercises, feedings, and medications that can be selected on a reservation under the Services tab. Other services are entered here with the name, description, and then we have some basic settings that you'll usually find in the inventory section: the rate, whether it's a taxable item. We're going to choose how many times this service is performed daily. If it's only a one-time charge during the pet stay, we want to set that every day to 0. Otherwise, we can make it a service that is performed one time a day, twice a day, every 2 days, etc. We can choose to charge for special services on the last day if it's a boarding reservation. And we can set up commissions and QuickBooks Direct Link account information and inventory category information for each other service. The next tab is Special Rates. Here is where we can set up special rates for days of the week or for holiday or peak season. These are additions to current rates, not different rates. So if we want to add $5 to boarding stays on Sundays, we can enter that $5 here, and every time a boarding reservation occurs on a Sunday, the system will add that $5 surcharge to that day's rate. For holiday and peak season options, we can set the rates here for the surcharge added for those holidays. Then going to the Schedule tab in Kennel Connection and opening the Calendar view, we can choose the module, select the day in question, and mark it as a holiday or a peak season. Once we've done that, any reservations that fall on these days will have the surcharge added for the type of day selected. You could also choose what these surcharges are called on the invoice when they're added. The next tab is Training Classes. This is where you'll enter training classes to select in the training module, entering the class name, the maximum number of pets per class. The system will also show you how many pets are actually booked into that class from this list section, the description of the class, the start date and end date, and we also have the length of the class. So if we enter a date for the start date and we have 7 weeks as the length, we can also click Calculate to automatically figure out the end date. Then we'll have the rate charged for that class and the start time and end time on each day. When we create this class, the class will appear on the start date and then once a week on that same day up through the number of weeks until we hit the end date. So each class will appear once a week on the training schedule. Then we can also choose the instructor for that class. And when classes are completed, we can mark them as completed if we do not want to delete them from the system. They'll remain in the class list, but they will show in red. Next, we have the Vaccinations tab. We do have a training video on setting up and managing vaccinations in Kennel Connection. I recommend watching that if you're looking for additional information on how to enter and track vaccinations through the system. But for the purposes of this training video, we're going to look at adding vaccinations to Kennel Connection by clicking the New Vaccine button, entering the name and the description of the vaccine, whether or not it's required, and whether or not it's a feline vaccination. We can then enter how long it takes for the vaccination to expire. This will allow us to enter a vaccination date on the pet card, and then tabbing over, the system will automatically calculate the expiration date. And when entering rabies 1 year and rabies 3 year in the system, you'll want to make sure to choose 1 year or 3 year, as Kennel Connection is designed to automatically ignore one rabies vaccine once the other one is entered as received on the pet card, and for all other vaccines to select Other. Next, we have the Vets tab. The vets are entered on the pet card, and like breeds and colors, they can be typed in and saved automatically to the list section. Next, we have weight classes. If we are charging for boarding by weight, we will enter new weights here, choosing a from or to range, and then entering the rate for that weight class. If you're going to be charging for boarding by weight, you'll want to make sure that you go into the System options, select the Boarding tab, and choose the Charge by Pet Weight option. Next, we have zip codes. When entering new clients into the program, you'll be prompted to save zip codes and cities that aren't already in the zip codes list section. This is especially important if you have the mobile grooming module, as the zip codes are what you're going to use to assign zones to when setting up your mobile grooming zones. Once again, like the breeds and colors, these can be added automatically when entering new ones into a client card, or they can be entered manually into the list section separately. Next, we have pet types. Kennel Connection comes with a number of basic pet types. The only two that you cannot delete are cat and dog. These are system defaults. It will not let you if you try. Everything else can be removed, modified, and you can add additional pet types. One thing to keep in mind is that if you are using boarding and are dependent on the occupancy settings for dogs and cats in the system, those occupancy numbers are derived from the default cat and dog pet type when added to a pet card. If you enter your own pet types, such as feline and canine, and apply those to pets, those will not show in your occupancy totals. So you want to use our default cat and dog if you're counting on occupancy totals to give you an idea of how many pets you have booked in your facility. That is the only real restriction to the pet types. Beyond that, as I said, you can add any other pet type you want, and you can remove the other items that come with the program. Next, we have pet sitting types. Just like the training classes, these are items we're going to add into the system to apply to pet sitting reservations. You'll enter the name and description of your pet sitting type, the rate and whether it's taxable, multi-pet rates if you're giving a discount for multiple pets at the same household, and whether those are a dollar or a percentage amount. Choose whether the customer pays the representative. If there's an additional separate commission for the pet sitting, your basic commission setup, and the flat rate or percentage of that commission. Next, we have daycare packages. This is where you set up daycare packages to sell to your customers, allowing you to sell multiple visits in advance, usually for a discounted rate. Creating packages, you'll choose the package code, the package name, the cost, the number of days or hours, and you can also enter an expiration date for the package. And if you're using half days, there'll be an option here to check to indicate that this is a half-day package. There is a lot more involved with daycare packages in the settings and setup beyond entering packages into the system. If you're new to daycare packages, I highly recommend checking out our training video on packages in the Kennel Connection program. Next, we have states. These don't change too often, but if you feel the need to, you can delete, modify, or add new states. And we also have a country section in case your facility deals with international clients. Zones you will only see if you have the mobile grooming module, and this is where you'll create zones to attach to zip codes, and then you will assign those zones to your mobile groomers, allowing you to group reservations into the same areas. We're hitting the last row now of the list section. We have cell service providers. In Kennel Connection, you have the option to send text messages to your customers. You can do so by going to any customer card, going to the Info tab, setting up the text message number, and selecting the cell provider. Kennel Connection comes with a number of default cell providers. These are the major cell providers. They're the majority of those that are available out there. If you find that there's a cell provider that is not listed here, you will have to add that cell provider to the list section. All you'll need to do is find out the name of the cell service provider and their server information. This is basic information you can get from their website or a representative. Once you enter that information, that will tell the text message how to get to the client's phone, and all will be well. Next in the list section, we have a number of other packages tabs. We have boarding packages, pet sitting packages, grooming packages, and other packages. As far as entering packages in the system, these all work the same way as the daycare packages. You'll enter the package code, the name, the cost, and the number of services being provided. So in boarding packages, it'll be days or nights. In pet sitting packages, it'll be services. In grooming packages, it'll be services. And in other packages, we have it listed as services, but you'll be able to choose anything in the inventory section of the program. Once again, there's a lot more to the packages beyond the setup of them in the list section. If you are looking for additional information on packages, please take a look at our training video on packages in Kennel Connection 6. Finally, we have the Special Services tab. Once again, like pet sitting and training, we are looking at services to be added for the Special Services module. The setup is very similar to the other services section, where we enter the name, description, the rate, tax, how often this service is performed, whether or not it's charged for the last day, commission setup, inventory category setup, and QuickBooks Direct Link income account. And then if I click breeds, we have come full circle through all of the tabs in the list section. The majority of items you'll be selecting from drop-down menus in Kennel Connection are set up in this area. The list section is the area where you will set up your rates for a majority of your items in the program, set up packages, and enter list items for other important setup features in the program. Once again, I want to highlight that there are some tabs here that you may want to learn more about under other training videos, such as packages, which you can find out more about on our training video for creating and managing packages in Kennel Connection 6, and vaccinations, for which we have a training video on how to track and manage vaccinations for pets in the program. If you have any additional questions regarding the list section in Kennel Connection, please feel free to contact the training department of Blue Crystal Software. You can do so by sending an email to training@bluecrystalsoftware.com, or you can call 888-486-4343, extension 307.